It's a family feud playing out inside of a courtroom in the middle of a murder trial. Meet the Farris family. Melody and Gary Farris were married for 38 years. They lived on a sprawling farm estate in Cherokee County, Georgia that spanned approximately 10 acres. Gary Farris was a wildly successful attorney in Atlanta, but his marriage was a bit unconventional. The couple lived in the main house on their property, but lived on separate floors of that home for decades, and both Melody and Gary appeared to be involved in relationships outside of their marriage. Meanwhile, their son Scott Farris, one of their 4 adult children, lived in an apartment above the barn on their property. On July 5th, 2018, Gary was found by Scott, an Iraq veteran, dead in a burn pile with a bullet in his ribs. And now it seems like 3 of the couple's children believe Melody is responsible. Melody, though, is pointing the finger right back at her kids. And tonight, testimony from a 4th child named Amanda, called by Melody and her defense attorneys. Tonight, it's another wild ride on the Ferris wheel with this family drama playing out inside of a courtroom as the jury tries to figure out who killed Gary Farris.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. The drama continues in Georgia. What a case, what a mess this family is, the Ferris family. This is getting ugly inside of the courtroom. Gary Farris was murdered, and that murder was covered up. That's why he's in a burn pile. It's not an accident. You're destroying evidence. You're destroying the victim of the crime. And whoever did this, and you know, it looks like it's someone in the family. That's the way it's looking. There's no evidence of anyone from outside of the family having anything to do with this in terms of the murder. If you want to point to lovers here and there, you can do that if you want. But the way it's playing out, looks like the pointing the fingers are, you know, family member to family member. But it's a murder, it's a cover-up. And this has really turned into kind of like what we used to watch back in the, I guess it was it the 80s? Dallas and Dynasty? This is like a real-life soap opera taking place with this family. And all the drama surrounding each member of the family. They all had issues. And you know, every family has issues. But then when it results in murder, it goes to the next level. And that's what we're seeing, that's what we're hearing, and that's what everyone has to take into account when you try to answer the ultimate question, which is who shot Gary? Was it his son? Was it his wife? Is there some other potential story out there? But this is really where things seem to be focused in this trial. The defense sort of focusing on his son, Scott, and obviously prosecutors going after the person they indicted for the murder, Melody, his wife. And as the evidence comes in and all this drama is revealed to the jury, man, it's not going to be easy for this jury to get to the bottom of it. And in our system of justice, the job of the jury is to determine the facts of the case, right? They determine the verdict. The verdict is based upon the law that is given to them by the judge. The judge tells the jury, this is the law that you must apply to this case. But for the jury, they're the ones who determine what happened. And man, if you've been watching this trial, I mean, is your head spinning around like mine is? This thing is all over the place. And it's like a soap opera. That's the way they created the soap opera. It's like you don't know who did it because different people have different motives. And there's drama going on between everyone. So everyone is somewhat suspicious. And it doesn't appear to be a 1,000% clear case against anyone. But if you're the prosecution, that's what you need because you have the burden beyond any and all reasonable doubt. It's not just, yeah, well, I think she did it. I mean, he could have done it, but I think she did it. That's not enough. It's got to be, oh yeah, I know she did it. I know that that's the burden that they need to meet here. So with the 4th adult child, Amanda, taking the stand for the defense, another game changer in all of this. So let's go straight to Court TV. Crime and Justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who is joining us live tonight from Cherokee County, Georgia. Matt, great to see you. Let's talk about Amanda. And what did she have to tell this jury that's been trying to figure out what's going on in this Ferris family about the dynamics here?
Hey, Vinny, nice to see you. Yeah, this was the moment and the witness that we were all waiting for, because this is the fourth of the Ferris children to take the stand. But she was called by the defense because we're in day 2 of the defense case in chief. Now, she talked about a family that appeared to have it all, living in mansions and going on lavish vacations. But behind closed doors, there was a lot of problems, and they would just sweep things under the rug. Take a listen.
There was a lot of things that happened before that moment that I think should have been taken care of before just putting money on it to fix it. Okay. I think a lot of things that have happened in our family get swept under the rug, and they're never addressed, and they're not taken seriously. But a sin is a sin, and I feel like this is a repercussion of all the sins that were committed over years, unfortunately.
This is sins by everybody in the
Everybody.
family?
False money idols. It was always what it looked like on the outside. It never mattered what it was on the inside.
Amanda Ferris Bruce right there getting emotional, testifying in her own mother's murder case here, murder trial. And especially emotional when she was talking about her dad, the victim in all of this. Take a listen.
What was your dad like?
He was great.
Take your time. I feel like we've been in this trial for a while.
He was a very smart man. I'm sorry. There was no doubt in my mind he loved all of us. He made that known, and he was very sarcastic.
Lawyers are notorious for that.
He had the lawyer personality for sure, but I mean, he was the dad that you walk down the stairs and he'd whistle and go, "You're a movie star." He was just such a big man, and he'd come and he'd just wrap his arms around you. But then in this sense, he'd turn around and fart on you, and you'd just be like, like, he was sweet, and he was witty. He could say things that cut you to the bone. He definitely demanded respect in that aspect, I guess you would say. I was always fearful of him in the sense that I wanted to respect him and I wanted him to be proud of me.
This witness, the jury was completely glued to her testimony today, and that was a big moment for, no matter how you look at it, for the state to humanize the victim in all of this, her dad, right? And her breakdown on the stand there. But also, you saw the defendant breaking down as well, which you haven't seen much during this trial. And during those moments when she was listening to testimony about her husband, the victim, who is now dead.
She really appeared to be the most real of the family members, if you know what I mean. Like someone like sort of relatable. Like you're watching, I get it, right? She's talking about her dad and the hugs and the hijinks. He's sweet, he's witty, but he demanded respect. And she's painting a very clear picture. And seeing emotion is, I think, important in all of this. Like, this is a family that has blown up, absolutely blown up. It's murder, and someone in the family appears to be responsible for this. So let's talk about that. What did Amanda say about her dad's death?
Yeah, we were listening a lot about the buildup to the moment when she discovered that her father had been murdered, and his remains were found on a burn pile on this pristine property that the jury has already visited. But she was talking about how fun the 4th of July weekend was supposed to be. And then the moment when her brother said that dad's body is on the burn pit, and her reaction afterwards. Take a listen.
And he goes, "Amanda, like something to the tune of like, Daddy's in this burn pile. Like, I know what I've seen. I've been in Iraq. I know what burned bodies looked like." And I'm just sitting there on the phone going, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "There's something in this burn pile." And I was like, what are you talking about? In pure just denial, I guess. And either he hung up the phone or I hung up, but I immediately called Chad and I said, you need to get here right now. And next thing I know, I don't know if he walked over. I mean, everything, your whole world stops. And he came over and grabbed me by the arm as hard as he could, and he got in my face.
Who are we talking about?
Scott.
Okay.
He got in my face and he screamed at me. He said, I know what I saw. I know what it is, Amanda. And I was just, again, going like, what?
Right there, that testimony, that kind of made it very clear why she was called as a defense witness and not by the state of Georgia in all of this. And leading up to that, the line of questioning from other defense witnesses over the past couple days has indicated that Scott has quite a temper. Remember, since day one of this trial that started 4 weeks ago here in Cherokee County, Georgia, the defense has been pointing the finger at the defendant's son, Scott.
Yeah, this is raw, this is real, and and there's a lot for this jury to try to figure out. Like, you got to figure this out. This is an actual murder mystery to a certain extent for the jury. Prosecutors believe they've solved it, but defense obviously not conceding anything. How did the cross-examination go?
Well, they didn't use kid gloves. I mean, it was very intense. Prosecutors were really leaning in on her relationship with her siblings. How did that fall apart? Why she believed her mom's story since day one. Because remember, Melody Farris, after she was arrested, she stayed with Amanda. Amanda helped take care of her financially. She said that she couldn't even go out and buy a sandwich. She had no access to any funds after the husband was found dead. And they were really questioning her loyalty and whether or not she was being truthful under the law. Take a listen.
A lot of what you know or has been told to you by your mom.
Absolutely.
There's evidence of her lying through this trial?
I don't know. I mean, I would, if it was in the preliminary hearing, maybe.
But you agree with me that credibility counts, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, your credibility?
Yes, sir.
Not just in what you say, but also how you say it?
Yes, sir.
I mean, are you trying to testify here objectively, not your thumb on the scales at all? You're just trying to say, this is what I know?
This is just what I know. It's not my job to figure out what happened.
And it's fair to say that you're biased in favor of your mom?
I wouldn't say how I'm biased in favor of it. I believe that somebody is innocent until they're proven guilty.
So would you say that you do believe in your mom, though?
She has told me that she's not guilty, and all I can do is believe that until somebody can prove she is guilty. So I would like to believe that my mother had nothing to do with this. Some may call it denial, but I call it honoring my mother, and I would do the exact same thing if it was for my dad.
You have strong feelings both directions in this case, is that fair?
I stand right in the middle, and I pray y'all can do your job and figure out what happened.
This jury was leaning back. They stopped taking notes, and I noticed during much of her testimony, as she continued to stay strong and repeat those same answers, they would look over at her mother at the defense table and look at her reactions during this particular testimony. Make no mistake, she was one of the star witnesses for the defense. She did not waver. She stood to those answers, but she's only the star witness unless Mom takes the stand, and we're going to find out if she will tomorrow.
Big day, big decision. Matt Johnson in the middle of it. Thanks so much, Matt. Let me bring in a guest who's going to help us figure out what's going on in this family. Board-certified forensic psychiatrist Dr. Carol Liberman is with us. Dr. Liberman, great to see you. This is a big picture question. How and why does a family end up like this?
Well, actually, Amanda just said it. There were lots of sins in the family for many years, and this is the result. Lots of things were swept under the rug, and you got to wonder what, besides the affairs that her parents were having, and the money issues, were there other things? Was there any kind of abuse, for example? she's a wonderful witness. This should be a soap opera, As the Farm Turns.
Yeah, or as the Ferris Wheel turns, I think is the best way to, right?
Yes.
So, Dr. Liberman, let me ask you this. So, someone in this family murdered this man, right? He's the only one in this family, I believe, that's really like working, and he's like, he's supporting the whole thing. And Amanda describes him as sweet, witty, but demanding, demands respect, stuff like that. I mean, these are common traits for someone that's sort of in his position as the man of the house, so to speak. But someone in this family committed the murder, and everyone is kind of like they're pointing the fingers at each other. Kids at mom, mom at kids. This is very unusual. Most spousal cases, it's like the kids don't want to believe that mom's responsible, but
yes.
Here they're standing up, at least 3 of them are pretty much saying, she did it.
Yes, that is a key issue, because most kids would give their mother, kind of like Amanda, they would give their mother the benefit of the doubt. If they weren't sure, they would want to believe that their mother didn't do anything. And but in this case, excuse my animal.
Is that the cat? We saw the dog in the back. I guess that was the cat going across the front.
Yes.
Go ahead, continue. We're good.
Anyhow. First of all, I do think that my money is on the mother, that she did it, because of a lot of things, because of how she's been acting in the trial. She seems very cold. It's because of, something had to have happened between the mother and her children when they were growing up to make them be so willing to testify against her. That's the thing. Now, you could say it's the money. They want the money, and she wants the money, and so everybody wants the money, except maybe Amanda. And so that's part of it. But there had to have been earlier on some kind of, for example, the mother seems very narcissistic. So perhaps as the kids were growing up, they didn't get very much attention from her, or didn't get very much love from her. Whatever it is was something that's a long-term kind of thing that would make them so easily testify against her. Now, of course... Now,
there's one other situation that may make them do that, is if they're responsible, right?
Well...
To immediately put the blame on her.
Yes. And I don't really believe Scott's crocodile tears. I have trouble believing that Scott has nothing to do with it. Of course, the question is, how did the mother get the father to the burn pile? But there are different ways. Her DNA, right, was found on the tractor, so she could have used that. Or she could have shot him at the burn pile. Also, that was a strange comment that Scott made, that he was an Iraq vet. And so he knows what bodies in burn piles are like. And the way Amanda described how Scott was telling her that her father's in the burn pile, it seemed a little off. Like too cold.
Absolutely.
Or too. Not my father, our father's in the burn pile, oh my God, or crying or something. It was like, hey, I know, I've been there.
Jury's got a tough
father's
job.
In the burn pile.
Yep. Dr. Carol Liberman, great to see you tonight, and all the animals as well. Thanks so much. All right. When we come back, we'll bring in our think tank. We'll break all of this down. Plus, coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates the Delphi murders. 2 young girls brutally killed in the woods in a small town. Do prosecutors have the evidence to convict the man they have charged? We investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan.
In every story, in every trial, every case, there's at least 2 sides to it.
To dive into the latest.
Oh my God.
And breaking true crime stories.
This was a very targeted, very personal attack.
Inside.
I've never seen that in a discovery. I've been incarcerated 3 years.
And outside of the courtroom.
She's a psychopath.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central. Only on Court TV.
This phrase has been used, and it may be you that I heard it from originally, I can't remember. But would it be fair to call your family the Ferris Wheel?
Unfortunately.
Okay. Well, let's kind of get into that if we could, and kind of talk about, from your perspective, the personalities in the family and kind of the interplay of the siblings and the parents, and through the years how that kind of developed into 2018.
I wouldn't say that term really came along until we were adults.
Fascinating. The Ferris Wheel. When you think about all the people in this family, and in this case particularly, how everything revolves around the death of Gary. Take a look. We've got our own Ferris wheel tonight for you, folks. In the middle, you see Gary. He's the victim, and around him, that's his family. Up on top, his wife of 38 years, Melody Farris, the one accused of murdering him. They had a 38-year marriage. Kind of bizarre, though. Living on separate floors, seemingly living separate lives, having relationships outside of the marriage, which is fine, but they stayed together for 38 years until Gary was shot and killed, and prosecutors say Melody is the one responsible for it. Well, let's spin that wheel around and talk about another member of this family, which is Amanda Bruce, who testified today. Take a listen to Amanda, who was the one of all the children that seems very sympathetic to her mother, doesn't want to believe that her mother is responsible, and talked about her family dynamics.
What did you notice about the change in your family dynamics?
After that had happened, I immediately had to take care of my mom. It was probably July 6th. All of my brothers and sister looked at me and said, all right, you take her. And so I immediately had her with me. She lived with us, I can't tell you how long, months. Because she didn't want.
This was in 2018?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
After everything had happened. This was like July 6th forward. And she lived with us. She didn't want to go back to the property. Eventually it came to the point of like, okay, you can go now. And so she went back, but I had to help pay for house insurance and car insurance and power bills and things like that.
Had you ever heard your brother Scott say, this is my property?
Yes.
This is my house?
Multiple times. He flaunted the fact that that was his property. I almost kind of like joked in a way he kind of vicariously lived through my dad.
Kind of like the movie Step Brothers. You ever seen that?
I don't know if they took ownership of their dad's stuff.
Well,
but yeah,
okay.
I mean, in that same situation, and grown up, still living at home. Yes, I can see it in that aspect.
But he would claim things as his that were not his. That's fair to say.
They belong to my mother and my father.
Okay. And you say, I mean, how often would you hear him say this?
He wouldn't say it like all the time, but it was always just like my farm, my property, my Kubota.
Was your brother appointed as the executor of the estate?
Nobody was. The estate was locked down immediately when the house was locked down. My mother couldn't go down the road and get a sandwich if she wanted to. She was totally reliant on me.
Wow. Powerful testimony. Let's spin that wheel. Where's it going to land next? On the Ferris wheel, it is Scott Farris, who testified. And I mean, this is the guy who's like literally pointing the finger at his own mother as being the killer. This is the adult who's living on the farm, who found the body in the burn pile, and is the one who recognized, oh yeah, that's a body. That's Dad. Take a listen.
At what point did you learn that there was actually a bullet was found in your father's rib?
So we were there very, very late at night. I know it was probably close to 11, midnight or so. And they kept us in a kind of a conference room. And they brought us one by one back into another room individually. I don't remember who they brought back first and all, but by the time they brought me back, I believe it was Detective Hayes that was there with me. I don't really remember the details of what all was discussed at first, and then I was informed that they discovered a bullet lodged in the rib bone.
At that point, did you suspect your mom?
Definitely.
what point did you learn that there was actually a bullet was found in your father's rib?
So we were there very, very late at night. I know it was probably close to 11, midnight or so. And they kept us in a kind of a conference room, and they brought us one by one back into another room individually. I don't remember who they brought back first and all, but by the time they brought me back, I believe it was Detective Hayes that was there with me. I don't really remember the details of what all was discussed at first, and then I was informed that they discovered a bullet lodged in the rib bone.
At that point, did you suspect your mom?
Definitely.
Definitely. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, Los Angeles County Deputy Public Defender Philip Dubé. Also with us, criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. Great to see everyone. Philip Dubé, the jury's got to figure out what's going on in this family. I mean, I get paid to do this. I can't figure it out.
I got to tell you, there's nothing different about that family. There are so many just like them across America. You know, you got crazy families doing crazy things. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's a homicide involved, but seriously, they're all up to chaotic nonsense. But here, I think the real problem for Melody is the statement she made to Rusty. I mean, he confronted her in a recorded conversation. Didn't you tell me on July 3rd that Rusty was on, or that Gary was on a burn pile? So the fact that she knew that he was on a burn pile before he was even discovered by Scott is the worst piece of evidence against her. So the infidelity in the
So what you're saying, Philip, what you're telling me is you got to go outside the family to figure out what's happening inside this family. Fair enough?
In this particular case, yes, except what makes it a little creepy is that Rusty is sort of in the family, because if you remember, cousin Martha took the stand to talk about the missing 38 special, and Martha and Rusty are sort of related, so it's all one big happy backwoods family, so to speak, you know? But it's all irrelevant in the end. The real question is, what do they have on Melody? I don't know how she's going to get around that statement to Rusty. What does he do? He tries to recant, he tries to sanitize a little bit and clean it up, but it's out there, you know? So I think she's in some pretty deep trouble here.
All right, Darnell, say we're starting this whole thing from scratch. Nobody's been arrested, right? It's like, you know, there's a murder at the farm, and you get to pick who you want to represent. Do you want to represent Scott or Melody?
I'm going to go with Melody. And I just like the big fish, Vinny. I'm a winner. So, you know, I'm going to go with Melody. It sounds like there's one of these sons who thinks everything's his already, so he has a motive to want to off his father because he wants it quicker. He doesn't want to wait until the inheritance comes down. I'm going to go with
his
that.
father was asking, you know, there were money problems. He was taking some money. His father confronted him about it as well. So he's got a lot of issues.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to have to push things over there. And obviously, if we raise doubt here, then that's a not guilty. So they're going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And as everyone even on this panel has alluded to, there's doubt all over. Now, so if it comes down to just who you believe morally, that's not going to, carry the day. It's whether they prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Melanie did this. And so unlike Dr. Lieberman with the cats in the back, I know there's no doubt she's voting for a woman this election.
But I have to correct you. The cat was right in front of the camera. The dog was in the back. Jennifer Brandt. 38 years together, separate lives, relationships outside of the marriage, from the testimony that we've garnered here. Is there any reason for Melody to even do this? Like we're hearing motive about Scott. Is there motive for Melody?
Sure, there's motive for Melody. Although she has Darnell defending her, I mean, she's golden. She's going to win because Darnell always wins. So
he's got the streak. He's got the streak.
But of course, there's motive for her. This money. It's always about money, right, Vinny? I mean, she had a lot of money. She had access to the money, even though they were living. They were still married, but living apart in the same household, which, as Philip pointed out, is quite common in many marriages and many people. But she had a chance of losing that money. If they got divorced, which I think Gary had filed way back when in 2010 and then withdrew his divorce. But if he had filed and pursued this divorce, I mean, she stood to lose some access to money. So that would be the primary motive for her.
Ironically,
she was
lost
having affairs, so it wasn't him. It wasn't worried about moving on with other people. It was more about her lifestyle.
All right, Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to go back to the Ferris wheel, give it another spin, and see where it lands. Don't go anywhere.
They told me that they found a bullet in my father's rib, and now this was being treated as a homicide. And there were some follow-up questions, and they asked me, who would anybody ever benefit from your father being killed? And I was very frank. I said, well, yeah, I mean, my mom.
Could you imagine, like in a normal family, like nobody benefits when a member of your family is murdered. Like regardless of where the money's flowing, etc. There's no net benefit when a member of your family is murdered. And here you go into the Ferris family. Oh, of course, your mom's benefit, of course. What kind of dysfunction is going on here? Let's go back to the Ferris wheel. Give it another spin. We got Scott up on top right now. Let's spin it. Where is it going to land? It's going to land on his brother, Chris Ferris. Take a listen to Chris Ferris here talking about more allegations against his mother.
I think I got a text message from my brother saying we're taking Daddy to the hospital. And then I got some sort of communication from my mother saying, that he was in the hospital or we were taking him to the hospital.
Did you know why?
My father would have these, he would call them his spells, okay, where he would be very lethargic, almost, how can I put this? Just very, very tired, couldn't stay awake, didn't feel well.
You saw your father in the hospital in April, and he was fine.
Yes.
He appeared fine. And how long was he in hospital for?
A few days. I talked to the doctors, and they were just trying to figure out kind of what was wrong with him to cause him to have the spell that caused him to have to be brought to the hospital. So they ran some tests. I know they had a stress test and all that kind of stuff.
While you were talking to your dad in the hospital, did he enlighten you on what he thought was wrong with him?
He did.
What was that?
He said, Chris, I think your mother is trying to poison me.
And what was your reaction?
I said, excuse me. He said, well, it's like she spent the day screaming at me, and I was watching TV in the theater room, and all of a sudden she brings me down some cookies. And I ate the cookies, and my throat started burning, and then I started feeling bad. And I told him, are you like what? He said, oh, I'm just probably paranoid or something. Some paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he kind of shrugged it off.
Sure.
And that's what he said.
At that time, did you know the state of your parents' relationship?
I know they didn't like each other very much.
Oh my goodness. In most families, oh, your mother's trying to poison me. It could be a joke, but they don't like each other. They're living separate lives. Let's spin the Ferris wheel one more time. Landing now on Emily Ferris Payne. This is one of the daughters. Let's listen to her describe the reaction to all of this.
It first started like what is going on? When he said, I'm gonna go up here and see what's going on. It was almost like, I need to figure out what's going on. But when he got there and started looking around and like they couldn't find him. Like he was frantic. And when he called me about them after they had found him, essentially, it was just devastation in his voice.
What about your sister, Amanda? How did she sound?
She was crying. She was crying. I mean, we were all extremely devastated. I was talking to her during that time. I mean, she's still my mom, so I mean, like I didn't like act any differently with her.
Okay. And at some point, did that change?
Yeah, I mean, she became more hostile. She was more aggressive with us. She was demanding money. Like she would like bring up instances where my dad had lent us money or something, and she would be like, "It's time to pay me back. Like I need you to pay me back now." And I was just like, well, you know, I had a payment plan with him. Like I wasn't just going to give him like a lump sum. And, you know, she was getting pretty aggressive with that. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the best way to describe her behavior.
All right, we've got kids who owe dad money. Then we got mom who, after dad is murdered, is trying to collect the money. Darnell, if the jury spins this Ferris wheel, where do you think they're going to land?
Man, this is tough because they spin this Ferris wheel. They're hoping to find someone who they can believe, right? So if they find someone they can believe, then they can get closer to making their decision. When they spin this wheel, however, they're going to hear nonsense like what we just heard, you know, such as my mother has something to benefit. Like you said, this is a net zero gain. No one benefits here. So that's weird. And then the young lady who just spoke right now, Ms. Payne, she's saying, yeah, you know, and my mom was trying to collect on this debt. And typically, you wouldn't even bring that out. You know, let's focus on whether, in fact, your mom killed your father. And she's just using that so the jury then could maybe attach some kind of dubious, you know, reason to believe that she killed him. So you could tell it's half of the team on this Ferris wheel's on mom's side. Well, the number's even off. Half of the group is on the dad's side, and the other one is split. Amanda's sort of in the middle. She's like, I hope you guys do your job. So we got some certainly on the father's side, and the other sort of, I'll leave it up to you kind of thing. So it's just a polarized family, and it's a shame.
Jennifer Brandt, which is more expensive, like a divorce when there's a lot of money at stake, or like defending yourself at a murder trial?
I think it's a lot better to get divorced than to defend yourself at a murder trial. I mean, you know, when you're in a divorce, you're going to get something out of it. You are going to get some money, maybe not as much as you think you deserve, but you're going to walk away with something. If defending yourself in a murder trial is a win or lose, I mean, and if you lose, you're ending up in jail and with really nothing. So I would take a divorce over this anytime, and that's why, you know, I just shrug my shoulders and shake my head when I hear about these situations, which come up often when people decide to murder their spouse. Not that this necessarily happened here, but she's being accused of that.
Right.
And we hear it over and over and deal with so many cases where people are accused and some are found guilty of murdering their spouse rather than simply getting divorced. Unpleasant, but less unpleasant than murder for sure.
And Philip, ironically, she didn't even have access to the money, right? I mean, she's had to live off of her daughter. Her daughter's been basically supporting her. It's like this role reversal all of a sudden because of all the suspicion and the charges, et cetera, involving this potential murder.
Yeah, the estate was frozen probably by the probate court because Georgia has a slayer statute. You know, a beneficiary cannot slay the testator. Otherwise, if you are a named beneficiary, you will be disinherited by operation of Georgia law. And furthermore, I know we've discussed it on other shows, Vinnie, but I do believe that had she had filed for divorce, or even if Gary had filed for divorce, it would have been granted, the marriage would have been dissolved. But if the family court would have found misconduct on her part, such as infidelity or adultery, it would have dramatically affected how much she would have netted from the marital assets, and it might not have been enough for her to live on in terms of the equitable distribution of all the marital property. She stood the most to gain from all this, frankly, but I agree with Darnell. I don't think it's enough to convict of murder. Everybody had their hand out here, you know, and this whole third-party culprit type defense is a viable defense in Georgia, but you have to have probable cause to believe that somebody else did the crime, separate and apart from motive and opportunity and means. And I just don't think that there is enough evidence right now to point the finger at Melody. It's just not there. At most, what you have maybe is an even Steven, where you could say maybe they each had a hand in it, but it doesn't tip the balance in favor of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think they haven't met their burden. It's just not there.
Philip Dubé, like classic court TV viewer. One side saying this, the other side saying that. The truth is somewhere else. All right, great job tonight, guys. Philip Dubé, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt, great to see you. When we come back, I'll reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates the Delphi murders, Richard Allen is charged with a brutal double murder in a case that took 5 years to solve. But has the right man been arrested? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
What happened that night? Are you not prepared to take responsibility for any of your crimes?
Interview with a Killer, a Court TV original series, Sunday, 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. And what do we have? Oh, bond revoked. Lindsay Shiver down in the Bahamas, taken into custody. Her bonds revoked. Her and her Bahamian lover in cuffs. They had been free waiting for their trial. That is no longer. They've got a hearing coming up. We'll keep an eye on what's happening down in the Bahamas. But this is bad news for Lindsay Shiver, who was able to come back to the United States. Now, she'll be in a Bahamian jail. Tonight, also, I've got something else you need to know. A plea deal. Who's she? She's the au pair who was sleeping with the father of the child there after the child's mother was killed along with some other man. Well, the au pair was charged with the murder of that man. She's taken a deal. She's pleading guilty. She's going to testify against the father/husband who's been charged with the murder of his wife and this other man. It's a complicated story, but the big news is tomorrow the au pair takes a deal and we're on top of the case. Whew! You needed to know all that. You also need to know this. We've got a missing child tonight. Take a look. This is Guilherme Araujo. Sorry for the pronunciation, but Guilherme is missing out of Medford, Massachusetts. He's only 14 years old. What you need to do is see his face. If you see him, if you recognize him, pick up the phone, make the call, make the difference. You can call 1-800-THE-LOST, 911, or the Medford Police Department in Massachusetts. That phone number is on your screen right now. Let's see if we can get Guilherme to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We've got another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next, the latest in the Delphi murder trial. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.